3 spine-chilling true summer night tales exposing hidden horrors that forever haunted survivors. The summer night in Ohio felt thick, almost suffocating, as Sarah scrolled through social media, her mind racing with whispers of a legendary figure that lurked in the darkness of the local park. It's just another ghost story, she thought, yet her heart trembled as she recalled the nervous glances exchanged by neighbors who had witnessed it. Rumors claimed it wore a mask, prowling like a predator, waiting to pounce on anyone foolish enough to jog after dark. The idea clung to her, a shadow in the corners of her mind, even as she tried to maintain a semblance of normalcy for Liam. The streets shimmered under the hazy glow of flickering street lights. As the oppressive heat settled into the pavement, Liam slipped out for his nightly jog. "Just be careful," she had warned earlier, her voice tinged with unease. He flashed her a grin. Confidence dripped from him, youth mingled with ignorance. The front door clicked shut behind him, sealing in her own growing dread. With each stride Liam took along the twisting trails in the park, the air thickened, charged with an unseen tension. She remembered the tales, wild eyes reflecting terror, tales of missing kids and sinister shadows stalking the unsuspecting. Just as she shut her eyes against the rising tide of fear, a chilling thought intruded. What if it wasn't just a story? In the night's silence, the familiar hum of crickets was suddenly snuffed out. A rustle broke the stillness. Sarah's heart raced. Every creak of floorboards felt amplified as she paced the living room, eyes flickering toward the door. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Just then, a loud pounding echoed from outside, her heart lurched in panic. The veil of comfort within their home shattered as she rushed to the door. The moon hung low, casting strange shadows across the porch. Distorted figures darted to and fro in her mind, her thoughts clawing at clarity. Had Liam seen something? Had he? An icy dread gripped her heart when she realized Liam wasn't back yet. Each second felt like an eternity as she grabbed her phone, dialing his number. It rang and rang, unreturned, sending icy fingers down her spine. The dark streets now seemed malevolent, brimming with foreboding. It was as if the town itself breathed a collective sigh of dread. Flashes of faces flickered through Sarah's mind, neighbors who whispered in hushed tones, police officers who turned a blind eye, all tied together by their silence. Whispers floated, insinuating something darker lurking beneath the surface, shadows wrapped in deception. The thought settled heavily in her gut, trust betrayed. She burst through the door and stumbled toward the park, breathless and frantic, navigating the treacherous trails and growing suspense. As Sarah plunged deeper into the darkness, she reached the abandoned high school. Its crumbling facade loomed over her, an aching reminder of secrets preserved within dilapidated walls. Clenching her fists, she steeled herself, a mother's resolve igniting hope. She had to find Liam. Time was slipping away, but when she reached the entrance, something caught her attention. A chilling voice echoed from behind her. "You really shouldn't be here, Sarah." The icy familiarity of that voice sent her spinning, realization dawning as terror wrapped around her heart. The figure responsible for haunting her dreams was closer than she ever could have imagined. The night, once a backdrop of normalcy, transformed into something far darker, leaving Sarah scrambling against the engulfing shadows. Would she discover the truth before the darkness consumed everything they held dear? The voice hung in the air, thick like fog, wrapping around Sarah's heart like a vice. Panic clawed at her throat as she turned slowly, dreading what she might find. The silhouette stood just beyond the edge of darkness, obscured but undeniably familiar. Who are you?" she stammered, forcing the words out despite her quaking voice. The figure stepped forward, moonlight slicing through the shadows to reveal a face shrouded in a mask. It was twisted, almost playful, but radiated malevolence that sent shivers racing down her spine. The air crackled with electricity, each breath suddenly feeling more laborious, weighted down by the menace that filled the night. "They never believe you, do they?" the masked figure said, a sickening grin etched onto their face. "You're the only one left who cares. What do you want?" She felt the ground sway beneath her, but she couldn't turn away. There was an unexplainable pull, as if every sinew of her being urged her to stand her ground. "To share the truth," the figure replied, voice dripping with mock sympathy. "The truth about your precious Liam." The name sliced through her, igniting a flare of desperation buried deep within her heart. "What did you do to him?" A swell of rage and fear clashed inside her like thunder. "Why don't you come find out?" The figure laughed, a sound tinged with cruelty. Just then, the strong odor of decay reached her nostrils. Sarah's mind raced. She could smell it now, something putrid, something wrong. The laughter faded into an echo, consumed by a silence that pulsed with menace. She turned, adrenaline propelling her forward. Her fists balled tightly at her sides, courage and terror warring within her. She had to find Liam, had to push through the shadows that threatened to consume her. The path wove deeper into the park. Trees loomed larger and denser, the night swallowing the light as if it were a living thing. Each rustle of leaves became a whisper, echoes of lost souls. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, a heartbeat of distraction. She yanked it out. No signal. Just static. Panic clawed up her throat again. She pressed forward, fear twisting into determination. "Stay focused, stay strong," she muttered under her breath, more for herself than for the absent Liam. A shard of memory pierced through, their last arguments over trivial things, their laughter ringing in her ears. Moments later, she stumbled into an open space, overgrown grass swallowing the remnants of the old playground. Rusted swings creaked as if touched by an unseen hand. The swing set became a grotesque reminder of innocence lost. In the far corner, something caught her eye. A dark figure shifted, its form barely illuminated by the dying moonlight. Her heart raced. Could it be him? "Liam!" she shouted, voice breaking. No answer, fear turned her blood to ice. Was he here, or had the darkness swallowed him whole? She turned to scan the area again, the shadows now reaching out as if to pull her under. Suddenly, a flash caught her eye near the high school's entrance, a glimmer of something metallic. Her heart leaped in fear, and without a second thought, she rushed toward it. But as she approached, the darkness shifted. The chill of the night morphed into an icy grip around her, squeezing her breath away. The distorted laughter echoed again, louder this time. It was mocking her, derived from her increasing fear. "Turn back, Sarah." "It's too late." Her mouth went dry as adrenaline surged through her veins. She felt it, the bone-chilling sense of premonition. Something sinister was unfolding, navigating through the shadows as she stood to face it. The truth lay within reach, but it was demanding a price. What would she have to sacrifice to save Liam? Was she ready to pay it? The night pressed in, thickening around her like a funeral shroud. And then, she understood. There was no escaping the horror that had gripped her life. The figure that haunted her dreams had become a palpable reality. With time running thin, Sarah had to confront whatever waited for her in the dark. But first, she had to decide, would she chase the shadows, or would the shadows chase her? The metallic glimmer was closer now, almost pulsating in the dark. Sarah's pulse quickened, a race that paralleled her frantic thoughts. What if it was something that could help her? She forced herself to leave the shadows behind. Each step forward felt like stepping deeper into a chasm, but that reflection of light pushed her on. As she neared, her heart pounded in her ears, drowning out the whispers of the night. The playground loomed ominously around her, the once vibrant colors of plastic slides faded to dull, grim reminders of childhood. The swings creaked again, this time sounding like someone, or something, was pushing them. "Liam!" she screamed, desperation lacing her voice. The name echoed back at her, mocking in its emptiness. The darkness rippled, closing in tighter, contracting her world until it narrowed to just the swing set's metal frame and the prickle of anxiety down her spine. She lunged for the source of the glimmer, kneeling in damp grass now riddled with shadows. It was a small keychain, a frantic, twisted representation of a cartoon character Liam had loved. It was something he had lost weeks ago, a piece of his world that somehow had come to rest here. Her heart sank. This wasn't a good sign, it was a warning. Suddenly, the laughter erupted louder than before, echoing through the air, each guttural sound cutting into her. You're getting closer, but forget the past, Sarah. Only the truth matters. Stomach churning, she glanced around, eyes darting between corners of darkness. What truth? What do you want from me? She shouted, anger flaring as panic settled in. The silence that followed pressed around her like a suffocating blanket, then a figure lunged from the shadows, leaping from behind a tree, silhouetted against the moonlight. It was massive, grotesque, limbs too long for any natural being. Its eyes glowed an unnatural hue, piercing the gloom, and as it advanced, Sarah felt the world tilt beneath her resolve. Sarah! You need to leave. A familiar voice rang out a plea wrapped in urgency. She spun around and there he was, a vision distorted by fear. Liam stood before her, trembling and pale, almost as if he were being pulled back by unseen chains. Don't listen to it. It'll take you. Liam. Tears filled her eyes. Relief washed over her briefly, quickly overshadowed by confusion. What are you? The truth is a trap. He shouted, desperation weaving through his words. It's you have to trust me. The twisted figure lurched forward, its monstrous shape shifting, as if growing from the nightmares of her mind, taunting them. Her instincts screamed. The laughter escalated, mixing with Liam's cries. In that moment, Sarah felt a force tugging at her heartstrings, the choice pushing against her. The truth could reveal what had happened to him, but at what cost? It crackled in the air, thick and palpable, like a living entity. With every beat of her heart, she could sense their connection unraveling. I have to find out. She gasped, knowing the darkness behind Liam's eyes told her the danger wasn't just here, it echoed from the secrets they'd been hiding. No! He shouted, reaching out, his eyes wide with terror. Don't let it in. But the figure flashed a grin at her, promising answers with every movement. The shadows twisted, threatening to bleed into her very soul. Would she abandon Liam or plunge deeper into the abyss to unearth what lay hidden? With resolve clashing against despair, Sarah took a shaky breath. The darkness beckoned, whispering truths that felt just out of reach but also tied to a foreboding sense of doom. We can't leave this behind. She felt the weight of her decision loom heavy over her. The choice felt like a blade, ready to sever her ties to Liam forever. And then, devastating clarity struck. Find the truth, or be lost. The figure cawed, shadows shifting dangerously. What will you choose? As the looming darkness reached out, Sarah faced them both, the future she wanted and the potential horror that awaited her in the night. What lay behind the truth? Was it salvation, or a descent into pure madness? And as her choices tumbled through her mind, the chilling question remained, how much was Sarah willing to sacrifice to save Liam from the darkness lurking beyond? Sarah, don't. The urgency in Liam's voice pierced through the cacophony of terror, a tether pulling her back from the brink. But the figure was relentless, a dark beast of nightmares weaving closer, eager to claim her. She hesitated, caught in the web of conflicting pulls. Truth and lies blurred together, mingling like cursed shadows under the harsh glow of the moon. Panic clawed at her throat, and she could feel the weight of the past pressing down, heavy and suffocating. In its grip, she could almost hear echoes of twisted laughter, beckoning her to fall deeper. Remember the time she started, but the monstrous figure let out a howl that sliced through her memory, demanding attention, demanding submission. It moved closer, the tendrils of darkness unfurling like grasping hands, pulling at her mind. She was ready to turn, to run, but a flicker of resolve sparked inside her. "No. I won't let it take me." She turned to Liam, searching for reassurance, but his fear twisted his features, a mirror reflecting her worst nightmare. The world narrowed, the swing set became a prison, and with a surging wave of emotion, Sarah lunged toward the dark figure. "What truth do you hide?" she yelled, her voice echoing through the stillness, a declaration against the rising dread. "Show me." The laughter shifted tones, transforming into a chilling wind that swept through the playground, tearing at her clothes and sending a shiver running through her bones. The figure paused, and in that moment, its long limbs folded inward, revealing something hidden a door. A chilling darkness pooled there, inviting her in. It promised to shed light on the shadows that chased her, but Liam's desperate cries pulled at her. "Sarah! Don't you understand? It wants you to see what it wants. Don't follow it." Every instinct told her to turn back, to take his hand and flee, but as she hesitated, the glimmering keychain fell from her fingers, landing in the grass between them. A moment suspended in time, mixed with hope and despair, the laughter crescendoed. "The truth is liberation. Fear holds you bound." Sarah's heart raced. "What do I have to lose?" She stepped closer to the door, feeling the shadows swirling around her like a storm. An unseen force pulled her forward and she felt a cold hand on her back, pushing her toward the void. "No! No! Sarah!" Liam's voice shattered every semblance of calm. His hands reached out, grasping desperately, but the darkness enveloped him. The twisted figure gleamed with an unsettling satisfaction as Liam's form faded, his cries collapsing into a haunting echo. With a burst of desperation, Sarah reached for the door. The moment her fingers brushed against the ominous surface, a surge of memories flooded her mind, fragments of the past she had buried deep. Laughter, joy, and the blinding light of truth flickering within the dark. It washed over her, giving strength against the darkness. The monsters of her memories began to unravel, each revelation clawing at her, threatening to tear her apart. "Are you ready?" the figure hissed, a guttural promise echoing through the night's shadows. "Only one truth matters, dare you accept it?" As Sarah stood on the precipice of darkness and light, the space around her pulsed. Each breath felt like a countdown, and she could feel Liam's spirit tethered to her, urging her to choose wisely. An icy grip tightened around her heart, the darkness shimmered with an intoxicating pull. What lay beyond? Would she free herself of the burden or plunge deeper into madness to uncover the truth? The moment hung suspended, heavy with dread, as she drew a ragged breath, and in that crushing silence, she whispered the question that could seal her fate: what must I sacrifice to reveal the truth? In that instant, the world spun, and shadows lashed out, ready to engulf her. A sudden rush of icy air swept through Sarah, like 1,000 tiny pinpricks stabbing at her skin, forcing her to gasp. The door was no longer just a door, it felt like a gaping mouth, hungry for her choices, yearning for her surrender. She could hear the echoes of Liam's fading voice twisting into something monstrous, a cacophony that mocked her. Fear tightened its grip on her heart, a vice that made it hard to breathe. She had stepped into the threshold of her own nightmares, and now she had to confront them, whatever price she had to pay. The world around her shifted, colors blending into an eerie palette of deep grays and sickly greens. The playground melted away, and she was enveloped in a mist that curled like fingers around her. Wisps of sorrow filled her lungs, mixing with dread, making it hard to think straight. "Welcome," the figure whispered, the voice low and sinister, almost playful. Shadows swirled at its feet, ready to pounce. "Are you ready to unveil your truth, Sarah?" The words resonated deep within her core. What awaited her? Each breath felt heavy, weighed down by the burden of secrets long hidden. She could almost hear Liam's voice pleading, each word a desperate anchor pulling her back, imploring her not to stray further into despair. "What do you want from me?" she shouted, anger bubbling inside her like a boiling pot. "I'm not scared of you." "Oh, but you are," it replied, that creepy glee coloring its voice. You've cloaked yourself in layers of fairy tales, ignoring the reality of the monsters that crawl beneath the surface. I will show you them all. Suddenly, the ground trembled, and one by one, her memories broke free from the shadows, materializing around her like ghostly apparitions. A childhood friend, long lost to tragedy, appeared first. You never saved me, Sarah, it lamented, eyes hollow and accusing. You were supposed to protect me. Panic clawed at her chest. No. I couldn't. I tried. It wasn't my fault. Another shadow emerged, this one a figure draped in tattered clothing, a younger version of her, trembling against a backdrop of harsh whispers and unanswered questions. I needed you then. You left me behind. No. She screamed, her voice breaking. You don't understand. I didn't know how to help. The figure stretched out its hand, fingers curling like dark vines, wrapping around her wrist. An unbearable pain shot through her as memories collided. Each one tore her apart. She felt their sorrow, their loss, and their betrayal. They surged forth, demanding repentance. Face the truth. Face the monsters. The darker figure commanded, its laughter echoing like thunder. Suddenly, Sarah was yanked into a haze of swirling darkness, a tempest of shrieks and cries, memories battling for dominance. The shadows pressed against her, blurring the line of what was reality and what was illusion. Was this truly the truth she sought, or merely the demons that thrived on her guilt? Liam. Help me. She cried, hoping against hope that he might somehow hear her, his essence still tethered somewhere in the chaos, but all she had was silence, heavy and stifling. It wrapped around her like a straitjacket, squeezing tight until her lungs burned. Panic surged. She needed to escape, to find light, to find him. The monstrous figure slinked closer, oh so sure of its power over her, whispering softly, "What are you willing to sacrifice?" Before she could reply, another flash of memory seized her, a moment of kindness, laughter shared, a promise made. But it crumbled under the weight of despair. In that heart-pounding moment, her vision blurred, and darkness wrapped around her like a choking embrace. The shadows whispered truths she wasn't ready to accept. Choose now, the figure hissed, its voice echoing powerfully through the haze. Would she uncover the truth and lose herself to darkness, or would she flee and remain chained to her fears? More shadows piled upon her, suffocating, cold, and dreadful. Just as she gathered her breath for one last desperate reply, the very fabric of reality began to tremble again. What truth would she unearth, and at what cost? A crackle of energy surged through the atmosphere, and then, without warning, Sarah was propelled backward, flung into the cold embrace of an abyss. Time became meaningless, like she was spun in a cyclone of visions. Fragments of memories crashed against each other until they congealed into a scene she recognized, a twisted version of her backyard. The trees were gnarled and bare, their skeletal branches reached out like fingers yearning to ensnare her. The sky hung low, a bruised purple that seemed to pulse with a heartbeat of its own. There, in the center of the yard, was a mangled swing set, chains moaning like tortured spirits. I never left you, the sinister voice rasped, barely audible above the dreadful stillness. The figure materialized again, grotesquely elongated in the shadows. Sarah stumbled backward, her heart racing, but her feet felt glued to the ground. The air thickened, suffused with despair. They were never gone, Sarah, it spat, its distorted face inches from hers. You pushed them away, yet they cling to you, just as you cling to your guilt. Liam's laughter echoed in her mind, twisted and morphed, until it became a sad, hollow sound. You can't run from them. It taunted, the wailing memories of her past rising around her like a swell of dark water threatening to drown her. Stop! She shrieked. Her voice barely made it past the encroaching dread. You aren't real. The figure leaned closer, pressing a cold finger to her forehead. Pain exploded through her skull, and through the haze, she saw another memory unfold. It was a birthday party, a sunlit day where laughter rang out, and balloons danced in the gentle breeze. But there was a shadow lurking just out of frame, dark and ominous. As she reached for a balloon, the shadow flickered, revealing the face of her childhood friend, now twisted and angry. "You abandoned us, Sarah." "No," she cried, shaking her head violently. "I loved you. I tried to save you." The figure laughed, the sound sharp and cruel. "What use is love when it falls apart in the face of reality?" Suddenly, the ground shook again, and the scene morphed. Now, they stood in the school hallway, lockers dented and graffiti smeared across the walls. Children's faces emerged, blurring in and out of focus, each one filled with disappointment, each silent accusation like a whip across her consciousness. "Why didn't you stand up for me?" A boy accused, stepping forward, tears in his vacant eyes. "You could have changed everything. Why does it have to be my fault?" She shouted, desperation spilling over. "I was just a kid." The monster of a figure towered behind her, stretching its gnarled fingers towards the boy. "Because you chose to look away, Sarah. It's easier to ignore the truth than confront it." "Enough!" she screamed, tearing herself from the grip of its hypnotic hold. With newfound resolve, she raced toward the trembling entities before her, her heart thundering in her chest. "Face me," she demanded, her voice fierce. "I will not be broken by you." The shadows swarmed, unfurling like a monstrous wave, gaunt faces filled with rage as they collided with her. She felt their anguish, but it wasn't just her own guilt rifling through the memories anymore. "Freedom comes at a cost," the figure murmured, as its shadowed form began to disintegrate before her. As she fought against the tide, something shifted. A blinding light broke through the darkness, illuminating everything. She squinted, torn between fear and curiosity. Could this light truly be her salvation? Or was it simply another illusion meant to trap her further? Just as it drew closer, the ground beneath her crumbled away, threatening to swallow her whole. One thought raced through her mind: what if she wasn't just fighting for herself? What if uncovering the truth meant facing the lives she had ignored, lives that may still be in danger? As darkness engulfed her, she reached out toward the light, desperate to grasp it before it disappeared completely. What lay beyond the brightness? Would she find the answers she sought, or plunge deeper into despair? The moment Sarah reached for the light, it flared, a blazing beacon piercing through the thick shadows. For a heartbeat, it felt warm, a promise of hope that enveloped her like a soft embrace. But just as quickly, the warmth turned searing, consuming her with an intensity that felt like punishment. She was thrust into another scene, falling through layers of time, splintered memories merging into a single, horrific tableau. Twisted images morphed, warping her surroundings. She landed on the damp earth, a sensation so real it was visceral. The smell of decay filled her lungs, an odor too familiar, and there it was, her childhood home, but forsaken, windows gaped open, shattered, the walls crumbling under the weight of memory. The garden, once vibrant and alive, lay choked with weeds, overgrown and sinister. "Sarah," a whisper floated through the air, slithering into her ears like venom. She shivered and turned, breath catching in her throat. "Who's there?" she demanded, her voice trembling, the sound swallowed by the oppressive silence. "Did you really think you could escape us?" The voice crept from the shadows, faint at first, then there they were, the veiled faces of her lost friends. They loomed in the distance, their expressions a ghastly mix of pain and anger. Each one stepped closer, their figures flickering like flickering flames. She could almost feel their warmth, but it twisted into cold horror, each gaze a dagger aimed at her heart. "Remember me?" A girl with hollow eyes questioned, her once familiar features grotesquely transformed. "You left us behind." "Stop!" Sarah screamed, backing away, but the ground seemed to shift beneath her feet as they advanced. "I was just a child. I couldn't save you." "No one can save the ones who are lost," the first ghost hissed, inching closer, the distance shrinking like a trap closing in. The memories surged again, rushing waters threatening to drown her. Lurking figures flashed in front of her eyes, faces she hadn't seen in years, standing lifelessly in a cold embrace. "Why did you forget us?" another soft voice asked, rising from the unholy chorus. "I didn't. I tried." Desperation filled her thoughts. But their faces conveyed only judgment, unyielding, and flayed open her soul. A heavy realization dawned: these were her choices lurking back in the dark spaces of her heart. "Your guilt is the true monster, Sarah." The original figure returned, taller than before, its elongation exaggerated by the frenzy of emotions swirling inside her. "You can't hide from it. Because it never left." With each breath, the air grew heavier, thickened with despair. She was suffocating in a fog of regret and sorrow. "Face us!" she screamed, frustration rising in the pit of her stomach, fueled by years of silence. "Show me the truth." Suddenly, a blinding flash erupted around her, and she felt herself lifted, hoisted into a vivid moment. There, in a stark light, the faces were clear, the anguish etched in every memory, and she understood the guilt she wore was not just a burden, it was an anchor, binding her to those lost. As tears streamed down her face, she felt a glimmer of something strong, something that surged outward. "I'm sorry," she cried, voice breaking. "I'm here." But instead of fading, the spirits hovered in lingering shadows, their faces showing nothing but pity now. What was this? Did she truly believe an apology was enough? "Will you face the truth?" the lead figure said, voice echoing through the heavy air. Before Sarah could answer, the ground shook violently, pulling her downward, into a desolate pit from which there felt to be no return. Anticipation clawed at her insides as the darkness threatened once more to swallow her whole. Would she dare to confront the truths that lay at the bottom of this pit? Or would those lost souls drag her deeper into despair, never to return? The ground continued its brutal descent, shifting beneath her like a living thing, pulling her toward an abyss that yawned open wide. Panic roared in her chest, each beat thudding in rhythm with the terror spiraling around her. She fell, the darkness enveloping her. It was thick, suffocating. The air turned stale, weighed down by the ghosts of her past. Faces emerged in flashes, smiling, laughing, and then contorted in pain. Each image hit her like a hammer, flashes of a childhood marred by secrets. But then the descent stopped. With a jarring thud, she landed on cold stone, slick with moisture. The smell was no longer decay, it was the bitterness of regret, tainted with the remnants of dreams unrealized. "Sarah," the whisper came again, this time clearer, sharper, slicing through the dismal air. It lingered like smoke, curling at the edges of her mind, and her heart raced. This was not just a memory. "Where are you?" She stumbled to her feet, glancing around, the darkness surrounding her pulsating. The oppressive sensation of eyes, unseen yet felt, made her skin crawl. She turned to the shadows creeping at the wall, the echo of her childhood friend still echoing in her ears. "Come out, show yourselves." The defiance in her voice felt weak, barely holding against the suffocating fear, and then they emerged, faces warped by time, each specter representing a choice she wished she could change. "You really think you can undo what's done?" one taunted, stepping into the faintest light, a flicker illuminating the edges of their hollowed expressions. The recognition struck her, each figure a torment of guilt she carried. "I was just a kid," she yelled, desperately trying to stave off the inevitable confrontations. "You think that absolves you?" another sneered, voice slicing through her defenses. "You let us drown in silence." Visions rushed back, the laughter shared, the secrets kept. Bitter memories of moments forgotten flooded in, each attaching itself to her like chains binding a prisoner in torment. "Face what you've done." A chorus of ghosts rang harshly, their voices blending into a cacophony of accusation. "No." She pressed her palms to her temples, struggling against their weight. With each pulse, memories flooded her mind. "I tried to help." "I help?" The lead spectre stepped closer, its face an amalgamation of sorrow and vengeful fury. You thought forgetting us would protect you. The stark truth clawed at her throat. For years, she had buried the past. Dead memories she labeled too painful to recall. But guilt was a festering wound, and the agony resonated through her, weaving deeper and deeper beneath her skin. They edged nearer, as though feeding off her fear. You need to accept what you've done, or we'll be the ones who haunt you. For eternity. The other figures echoed the sentiment, their eyes widening into voids of longing and anger. Let us in, or we'll never let you out. Just as the shadows reached for her, Sarah's heart pulsed, igniting a buried flame. No! She screamed, feeling strength surge, a desperate counter against the tide of shadows. Memories clicked into place, clarity illuminating her mind. I will face the truth. The grounds around her trembled, and a blinding light exploded through the darkness. In that instant, she felt weightless, liberated and terrifying all at once. But then, something else tugged at her. An indescribable fear gathered at the edges of her mind, a deeper whisper lingering below. What truth awaited her in the light? Would accepting it save her or expose her to something far more terrifying? The air crackled, anticipation building like a storm about to break. Would she truly confront the very core of her guilt or unleash a far deeper horror she thought was buried? The blinding light snapped off like a blown bulb, plunging Sarah back into darkness, but something shifted within her. A new sound scratching. Like nails against stone. A low, grating melody rose, creating an unsettling symphony that filled the cold, damp air. Don't run, the lead spectre whispered. Its voice was honeyed with malice, dripping with the sweetness of inevitability. It's already here. She stumbled backward, her heart slamming against her ribcage, breath coming in ragged gasps. The shadows seemed to quiver, swirling around her as if drawing together to form a living mass. Each sound, the scratching, the whispering, echoed louder in her ears, an ominous chant beckoning her to unravel. They were drawing her closer, closer to something she wasn't ready to face. Who are you? She spat, her voice shaky, yet desperate for defiance. What do you want? A chuckle swept through the gloom, disembodied laughter echoing as the figures advanced, closing in like a noose tightening around her throat. We want you to see. Then, from the depths of the dark, a figure emerged, a child, with hollowed cheeks and eyes void of warmth, like black holes sucking in the light. It reached out, a bony finger stretching toward her. Sarah, you left us. The voice was innocent yet laced with a deep sorrow that chilled her to the bone. No, I didn't leave you. She felt the weight of her words, panic gripping her. I couldn't save you. But the spectre just shook its head, the sadness transforming into a mask of rage. You closed your eyes while we faded away. It lunged forward, the darkness swirling, dragging the other figures in closer as they surrounded her, shadows feeding on her despair. Stop it! She shouted, voice cracking, hands reaching out as if to ward them off. But the child's finger brushed against her hand, a shock rippled through her, electrifying her veins with a surge of memories long buried. Memories of that night, the screams echoing, the water rising too fast. Water she believed she could outrun, but now it flooded back, dragging her under. Help us! The specters cried out, their voices merging into a desperate plea, a chorus of the damned that shattered her resolve. Faces twisted in anguish, desperate eyes cutting into her soul. Only you can free us. Face your truth. Why are you doing this? She shrieked, feeling the walls of reality begin to crumble. You're all dead. You're nothing. Are we? The lead spectre stepped forward, its wicked smile splitting its face as it raised a hand, revealing a mirror glimmering in the dark. Look inside, if you dare. The mirror whispered promises of clarity, of the truth lying just beneath. But as she stepped closer, the surface roiled ominously, reflecting her own fear, her guilt, a disheartening pulse of the memories she had long avoided. The air crackled again, a surge of energy sparking the air. The tension was thick as sorrow and guilt mingled, twisting into an unbearable weight. She could feel their emotions: pain, anger, longing wrapping around her like barbed wire. It was suffocating, but she was teetering on the edge of something profound. Could she really confront the truth? What more horrors would unfold if she looked too deeply? Then the shadows surged forward, and the mirror crackled ominously, shattering under the weight of her indecision. "Accept what you've done and set us free," the specters howled, their voices desperate, intertwining into chaotic energy, pulling her deeper into the fracture of her mind. "No!" she screamed as the chaos swirled around her, light and darkness blending in a tumult of terror. "I can't." She reached out, grasping at the shards that floated in the air, fear clawing through her, unrelenting. And in that moment of chaos, she realized, perhaps the darkest truth wasn't in the memories of her guilt but in the very shadows that whispered her name. What's lurking within those shattered reflections? What truth would emerge from the depths of the darkness, and would she survive the confrontation? The darkness loomed like a storm cloud, swirling and shifting, wrapping Sarah tighter in its suffocating grip. Her heart thundered in her chest as echoes of anguished whispers surrounded her. Maybe this was the moment she'd anticipated, the weight of her secrets crashing down to consume everything. But she refused to let it win. "I won't be afraid anymore," she shouted, her voice breaking free from the shackles of despair. The shadows writhed, as if recoiling from the force of her defiance. She couldn't ignore the truth any longer, and that realization lit a fire deep within her. The figures, lingering in the periphery, paused, hope glimmering in their hollow eyes. In that instant, she felt their pain, their longing not just to be avenged, but to be understood. Without hesitation, Sarah took a step forward. "Show me," she urged, her voice firm and unwavering, even against the tumult of memories threatening to obliterate her. The lead spectre, with a twisted grin, beckoned her toward the shattered mirror hovering before them, fragments glinting ominously in the gloom. It felt electric, this call to face the horrors she had buried. Could it lift the veil of her guilt? Could she set them all free? Fighting against the swirl of grief, Sarah stepped closer, reaching toward the mirror. "I remember you," she whispered, locking eyes with the fragmented reflections of her past. Each shard bore the faces of those she couldn't save, and, even in their agony, she could see their humanity. "I tried to help. I truly did." But the voices pulsed through the air, urging her to dig deeper. "You know the truth, Sarah. Face it." The mirror trembled, and shadows shot out towards her, their sharp edges pulling at her heart. She inhaled, bracing herself, allowing the truth to seep through the cracks and pierce her consciousness. Visions cascaded, laughter turned cold, friendship scarred, trust shattered. Every moment of ignorance she had cloaked herself with flooded back. "I was scared," she cried out, the accusation wrapping around her like chains. "Scared of losing those I loved." "No more excuses," the lead spectre growled, its voice sharp and commanding. "Claim the light. Remember how it felt to hold love close." Tears streamed down her cheeks, a release she had long denied. "I'm sorry," she choked out, feeling the years of guilt pressing against her. "I never meant to abandon you, any of you." Suddenly, the shadows pulsed with a surge of energy, a chilling wind whipping through her. The mirror flared brighter, and Sarah felt a shift. The darkness that had once threatened to consume her now trembled, and she seized the moment. "I choose to face it. I will no longer run," she declared with newfound conviction. The mirror shattered, sending shards of light scattering across the dimness. The echoes of her friends transformed, their faces morphing from anger into understanding. The shadows reeled back, their grip loosening, giving way to a cleansing light that radiated warmth. In the heat of that moment, she felt a weight lift, an expulsion of the guilt that had clung to her for so long. Each piece of darkness scattered, dissolving into the light. All around her, the shadows began to vanish, replaced by ethereal warmth drawing her closer. "We forgive you," they whispered, their voices filled with relief. "Now you are free. Tears of gratitude blurred her vision as Sarah felt herself lifted, surrounded by the very friends she had feared to confront. The shackles of her past shattered completely, leaving behind a sense of profound acceptance. "I won't forget again," she promised, her heart swelling with compassion. As the last remnants of darkness faded into the void, a familiar warmth embraced her body. Sarah opened her eyes, her heart racing not with fear, but exhilaration. The shadows were released, just as she had freed herself from the burdens of the past. Then a vision floated before her: Liam, standing in the moonlight, eyes clear and full of love. "You did it, Sarah!" he exclaimed, running to her as the shadows crumbled. "You found the truth." "Together," she corrected. Wrapping her arms around him, breathing in the sweet scent of safety, they stood at the edge of the park, the playground events swirling in memories, roots of their bond deepening in the light of the moon. The park where the horror had unfolded could now be vibrant again, teeming with memories yet to come. "Let us not dwell on what is lost, but build together," she whispered softly, staring into Liam's bright eyes. As dawn broke, a new resolution dawned with it. Sarah knew the journey ahead would not be easy, but everyone was free now. Shadows had a way of lingering if unaddressed, but with love, light, and a willingness to confront the past, they could redefine their future. With fresh determination, they stepped forward into the promise of a new day. You need to subscribe now to our channel so you don't miss our next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this gripping conclusion. And for the ultimate fans, please instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this shocking finale. Don't wait even one more second to share.